Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to yet another Destiny 2 video. Today we're comparing two absolute units, the Thorn and the Ace of Spades. There can only be one king of Crucible, and hopefully today we can pick ourselves a winner once and for all. Now before anyone gets their panties in a twist, we're only comparing these two weapons as they're both exotic hand cannons and very similar in terms of rate of fire and even the time to kill values. Now the last word is a great weapon, but it's far too different to compare to these two weapons right here, and obviously the Not Forgotten and Luna on the other hand have faster rates of fire and are much less accessible to the overall population, so today we're just going to be focusing in on these two exotic hand cannons. Let's start off by getting to know the Ace of Spades. This is a 140 RPM hand cannon with high impact and high range. The stats are overall very well balanced, with the reload being its lowest stats. However, 13 shots in the mag is plenty and you won't really need to reload often because of that. Now the intrinsic perk Memento Mori gives you bonus damage for your bullets once you kill somebody and reload. Now these are 5 bullets at the top of the magazine, which is a great thing because it's very predictable and you don't need to rely on RNG. The other thing that's awesome is you don't have to actually, worry about switching your weapon or reloading because they will stay there no matter, how long you wait or whether or not you're reloading or switching weapons. In addition to all of this, you have your radar active when you're aiming down sights with these extra damage bullets. It then also has corkscrew rifling, high caliber rounds, and smooth grip. Out of all three of these, high cal makes the biggest difference as it causes opponents to flinch harder when they're getting hit by the bullets. This is a deadly combo when you're pairing it with the Memento Mori and obviously doing higher damage to opponents. Finally, it has Firefly. Precision kills gives a big increase to reload speed and causes targets to explode, causing damage to nearby opponents. Now, if you couldn't tell already, there are tons of features packed into this weapon, and it's going to be really hard for the Thorn to beat it. So let's take a look at what the Thorn has in store for us. So obviously we can see that it's a 150 RPM, which is a bit faster than the Ace of Spades. It's a high impact, high handling weapon, but its range stat is quite a bit lower than the Ace. On the other hand though, its reload is a little better than the Ace, but honestly, in my opinion, it's not quick enough given that it only has 9 shots in the magazine. This is something I've mentioned in previous videos, but I would have loved to see at least 10, 11, maybe even 12 shots for the Thorn. So the intrinsic is Mark of the Devourer, and rounds pierce targets and do damage over time, and kills with this weapon leave behind remnants. It then has corkscrew rifling, accurized rounds, and textured grip. The main trait is Soul Devourer, and picking up a remnant strengthens Mark of the Devourer and partially refills the magazine. This Soul Devourer buff lasts about 7 seconds and it can be stacked multiple times with a timer cap of 10 seconds, which is considerably long for Crucible if you really think about it. When it refills your magazine, it's always going to give you 4 shots back. Now in the Crucible, this remnant will push your DOT damage from 2 all the way up to 7. With something like the Foe Tracer, it'll push up to even higher numbers, with the final DOTs hitting 8 and 9 respectively. Now because this is a strictly PvP comparison, I won't be mentioning Gambit or PvE whatsoever. The remnants are great on the Thorn, but the unfortunate thing is that you're still going to be reloading in matches as you can't fully rely on the remnants to get your magazine topped off. This is especially true if you're a more aggressive player that takes on multiple enemies at once, or if you like to quickly jump from gunfight to gunfight. Most of the time, these gunfights will be occurring at medium range. This is not a good thing considering that remnants have roughly a 10-meter tracking radius. This means that most of the time reloading will be quicker after a kill than simply running up to the remnant to refill 4 shots in the mag. I think a solid change in the future would be to increase the radius of the remnant and even possibly have it track you more quickly and aggressively. This would allow you to hop into the next gunfight more quickly without having to veer off course and pick up the remnant in the first place. In addition to this, Soul Devourer doesn't last as long as I would like it to. Sure, 7 seconds is a decent amount of time in the Crucible, but I'd like to see it stacked to 14 or 15 seconds instead of 10 if you do pick up a second one to top it out. My logic here is that if you are using the Ace of Spades and you compare it directly to the Thorn, then you can, basically get 5 shots that last forever until you use them. Why should you be, penalized by not using the shots in Thorn instead of, holding on to them like you do with Memento Mori? So at least give us a longer timer on that. You also don't need to wait for the burn damage to kill them, as they die right away with the sheer strength of each shot from Ace of Spades. That's why I personally would balance the Thorn when it's directly compared to the Ace of Spades, but I suppose the reason why they didn't make Thorn stronger is because it consistently 2-taps Guardians with its perk active, while the Ace of Spades can only do that in very, very rare circumstances, such as if someone is like, 1 resilience or 0 resilience. So let's take a look at these two weapons side by side and compare their stats. Obviously here the Ace wins in impact, range by a significant margin, and has 4 more shots in the magazine. It gives up a slight advantage in the RPM as well as a slight advantage in stability, while the Thorn handily beats it in handling. If we're just looking at stats and not talking about perks, the winner here has to be the Ace of Spades. It's far more important to have a weapon that's hard hitting with a further range value with even a higher magazine than a weaker weapon that handles much better. That's at least my opinion, and I think most of you guys would probably agree with that. Now this is the really important part, and this is the part of the video where the Ace takes a big old jump on the Thorn, so be prepared. And by the way, this isn't so much due to the Thorn being lackluster, because I actually think it's a very good weapon. The problem is that the Ace of Spades simply outclasses it in so many different areas. First of all, let's take a deeper look at the perks, because honestly, the weapon has more like 5 perks rather than just 2, the intrinsic and the trait. So obviously it's got Memento Mori, which I guess you guys can kind of compare to Kill Clip, but of course, a way better on steroids version of Kill Clip. Then obviously it does have Firefly, it also has Outlaw, it also has Third Eye, and finally it has high caliber rounds. So it's safe to say that this thing is pretty damn stacked, and it's hard for a Thorn to compete because it relies heavily on the remnants to be powerful in Crucible, but remnants in themselves aren't so easy to pick up, and obviously when you do use them they only last for a short while. When you kill somebody with the Ace of Spades, you simply need to reload the weapon and your buff is active forever up until you use those bullets. With the Thorn, you need to get a kill, then you need to run to the spot where you killed somebody, and then find another enemy within 6 to 7 seconds before the buff runs out. That alone tips the scale in Ace of Spades' favor by a lot. More importantly though, it does everything else so wonderfully that it's basically a wash at this point in the video. My hunch on the Thorn being, not as powerful as it was back in Destiny 1 is that Bungie simply wants to play it safe and not piss people off in the Crucible. I mean, let's face it, Bungie usually doesn't come out with a weapon that was broken in Destiny 1 and they don't usually re-release it and make it broken in D2. Look at the last word as an example. A lot of people on console complain that the D2 version is not as, I guess, recoil controllable. And even though I would disagree to some extent, that's definitely a very true point. It is a little bit worse than it was in D1. The Thorn, as we all know, was a dominant force in Destiny 1. People were so salty about this thing that it got nerfed several times. And that's why I think Bungie doesn't want to bring that same experience back to D2, because it may just ruin the sandbox. Could you imagine a Thorn walking around and just 2-tapping people in the same range that it's able to 2-tap now with remnants? That would trigger a lot of people, and I'm sure the forums would be on fire on a daily basis. Now, what they probably did here is they wanted to kind of give us a taste of what the Thorn used to be like back in vanilla Destiny 1, and that's, obviously achieved with the remnants. It gives us a 6 to 7 snapshot second window of how this weapon used to be, and that is a 2-tapping machine. But obviously they don't want to overdo it, and that's why they limited it to 7 seconds. The Ace of Spades, on the other hand, is a fantastic weapon in Destiny 2. I hate to say this, but it was just utter trash in Destiny 1, and you guys know it. That's why they made this thing so good. They wanted us to use it and experience it because, let's face it, it's a beautifully designed weapon, but in Destiny 1, nobody used this thing. It was just awful. Now here's the kicker, even though I explained to you guys exactly why the Thorn is not as good as the Ace of Spades in Destiny 2, and even though I understand that reasoning from a Bungie point of view and a developer point of view, I still disagree with it. I would have loved to see the Thorn be just a little bit better, and I'd like to see the changes that I've mentioned, where I'd like to see remnants last a little bit longer, and I would like to see them track you at a further distance, further radius, and make the tracking more aggressive. That way you can get the remnant quicker and just move on to the next fight. The reason why I say this is because the Ace of Spades is by far the most dominant mid to long range hand cannon in the game, and it really doesn't have any competition. Of course, you can say the Navrgon and the Luna, but I'm strictly talking about exotics here and stuff that's acquirable by the vast majority of the player base. And Navrgon is just, it's not acquirable by the vast majority of the player base. So with the Thorn's introduction, I would have really loved to see it be just as good as the Ace of Spades so they can battle with each other for the top spot on the list. But as this video goes though, guys, you guys can probably already guess which one I'm going to say is by far the king of Crucible, and it's going to stay with the Ace of Spades, guys. It is no doubt a better weapon than the Thorn, but that does not mean that you can't use the Thorn and have a lot of fun with it and do super well. That's it for the video though, guys. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, a like rating would be very much appreciated. Subscribe for more daily Destiny 2 content. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you all later. Peace.